Even though I found it to be far from perfect in execution, I thought that Star Wars Visions was a very fun and interesting concept that was equally intriguing to see brought to life. Spoiler alert, I'm an anime fan, so it was interesting to see so many different studios present their takes on a franchise as expansive as Star Wars. The way I see it, the Star Wars universe is so massive that just about anything could happen, and it wouldn't seem too out of place, which is why my favorite episode, without a doubt, was Tatooine Rhapsody, which, from what I've seen, is one of the less enjoyed episodes. Oops. But anyways, I found it so fun to see a completely different side to this world. There may be war and suffering, but then there are the people just trying to make a living and have a good time in spite of that. The latter side is rarely seen, and it was an absolute joy to see it explored through the perspective of the former Jedi turned rockstar wannabe, Jay. Once a Padawan in the Jedi Order, Jay is actually implied to be one of the rare few who managed to escape the wrath of Order 66, one who just miraculously slipped away not by his own skill, but by the grace of some luck and a Hutt named Guy that was willing to take him in and presumably help him flee. And that's about it we get for his backstory. With each episode being just about 15 minutes though, this short amount of flashback is surprisingly effective at telling us all we need to know, while also giving the present the time it needs to shine. This experience is implied to have left Jay with two things: some form of trauma over his time as a Jedi, and eternal gratitude for Guy saving him. Starting with the former, that becomes plain as day when you take a look at the scene where they are cornered by Boba Fett and his cohorts at their concert. And while all the other band members use their weaponized instruments to fend off the bounty hunters, Jay hesitates to go for the lightsaber that he was still armed with. This caps off later with what he retools his weapon into, but we'll get to that later. More obvious to see is the other attribute I mentioned, that being his gratitude and relationship with Guy. It is made abundantly clear that Jay not only feels like he owes his life to Guy, but also that he respects and cares for him as a close friend. Furthermore, it seems very likely that he very much enjoys his new life as a rocker, and he has Guy to thank for introducing him to that life. His close relationship with Guy, while just being introduced to the audience for the first time, is shown throughout the major plot of the episode, that being the attempts of Jabba the Hutt, Guy's relative, having bounty hunters such as the famed and previously mentioned Boba Fett, hunt Guy down for refusing to be a part of Jabba's syndicate, instead trying to live the rockstar life we see him pursuing. This has apparently been going on for quite a while when the episode begins, and this episode is when their luck just runs out and Guy is taken. Of all the members of the band, Jay is quite clearly the most affected by this turn of events, going so far as to try to draw his lightsaber on Boba Fett. Emphasis on try, as the lightsaber won't even start, likely symbolic of his inner hesitation to use the tool in the first place. Once his efforts are far from enough, though, he goes into a despairing state, one that is honestly given all the time it needs, even in the short runtime of the episode. While the others try their best to move on, accepting things as done, Jay is shaken to his core and cannot live in a world where his best friend is gone. So what does he do? Does he decide to put together a plot to break Guy free and finally learn to accept using his lightsaber? While that does feel like something that would happen in the other episodes where a lightsaber battle was bound to happen at least once an episode without a doubt, that is not what happens at all. Instead, Jay uses his strengths as a rock star to his advantage, and instead pleads for one last performance with Guy before his execution. It's here that we see that his lightsaber was retooled into a microphone. I find this to be a very satisfying development, following up on his preference to not use it to fight anymore, but also showing him accept his past and move past it, turning the symbol of it into something to signify his present and future. And this is never revealed to be a ploy. It is, like he said, just a microphone, and he uses it to perform what I personally believe to be a certified banger, even if the lyrics do sound a bit wonky listening to the dubbed version and hearing it in my own language. As he and his band members rock out for what could be the last show, Jay's final trick to cement Guy's survival is what really captivated me and my interest for this character. He reveals that this final performance was all just a setup, betting on the audience members to love them, so that Jabba could see how profitable sponsoring them would be, because he knows that Jabba loves money more than he hates his deserting relative. And in the end, it works. I found this to be such a unique turn of events in the Star Wars universe, one with no violence involved whatsoever, and it was a blast to watch Jay shout out to Jabba and plead his case, even when he knew how poorly it could turn out. With this courage to protect his friend, Jay not only secured his future as a rock star, but in my eyes, showed his spirit as a Jedi, even with that life behind him. While I can't honestly say that I find Jay to be a particularly deep character, This uncommon perspective of the Star Wars universe that he brings to the table, combined with his uniquely non-violent way of handling his problems, makes me so very fascinated with this character above all others in Star Wars Visions.